Okay, welcome Multnomah Village, week 78, Justice for Qadira, and we just feel so blessed that there's nice weather today. We never know how these rallies are going to go, and we know that a lot of people have been suffering over the past at least week, but generations, right? Generations of suffering going on this planet, but no, really people who didn't have power and people froze to death, and I mean, we had a very blessed holiday, but we know that many didn't. And I think it's important to remember that, I think God really does want to get to everybody on this planet and make sure there's no suffering, but, people have to be helping out with that. And unfortunately, our government's eye is so completely off the ball, no matter how much, all of us may be wanting that, it's going to be very difficult to achieve. So I wanted to start today with this article that I thought was just really, really shocking, something that happened here in Multnomah County. Can you find it? And this is about the fact that on Christmas Eve, Christmas morning, not everybody might be aware, but the warming shelters were closed at 8 a.m. Saturday morning on Christmas Eve, and people were thrown out into the ice and the freezing rain. And I just thought that was, when we stand up here and we talk about our experience with government and the fact that they tried to harm our family and kill our daughter, it's happening to a lot of people. So I just want to read this article because I just thought that this was
relevant.
This is very relevant as to, the type of government that we have globally right now, really. But
just irresponsible. This is just another example of how irresponsible our government is. And we are allowing this,
and
by the way.
This is why we keep getting out here, because somebody needs to be talking about this, because it's just not being talked about, really, in the media, not nearly enough. There might be a little article, but then it's glossed over. What I cannot gloss over in my mind is how much somebody's suffering when they're thrown out into 25-degree and below weather. So, and that's just policy here in Multnomah County. So I want to read this really quick. Multnomah County faces some backlash online over closing emergency warming shelters. Multnomah County received a lot of criticism on social media when they announced they were closing emergency warming shelters Saturday morning after temperatures rose above their emergency threshold. The county, in conjunction with the city of Portland, will open warming shelters when temperatures drop below 25 degrees Fahrenheit. Can you believe that, you guys? I mean, that's the threshold, and that's cold. By Friday, the county had opened 5 to allow those living on the street and otherwise in need to get out of the dangerous temperatures. By Saturday morning, the temperature in Portland had warmed up to about 30 degrees. Director of Emergency Management for Multnomah County, Chris Voss, said that the night before they would likely close the shelters on Saturday, which they did at 8 a.m. But conditions were still very cold and icy at that time, prompting outrage on social media when they posted about the closures. On Instagram, one person commented, How is it care to now kick those 1,000 people to the street when it's still freezing out? Would you want to sleep outside in this? Another wrote, It seems arbitrary rules are putting people into dangerous situations without full consideration of the outdoor conditions. Closing at such a time did a disservice to the people of Portland. On Twitter, one person replied to their post saying, If your guidelines say it's okay to toss people out into freezing rain, then your guidelines need adjusting. Another tweeted, This is beyond inhumane. You sent 1,000 people back into conditions that are not safe at all on freaking Christmas Eve. Who made this decision? I hope they feel ashamed. Executive Director for the Blanchett House, Scott Kerman, said that they fed many people Saturday who had been asked to leave warming shelters. People were grumpy, I think that's the best way to say it. People were really out of sorts, having been forced to leave the warming shelters, Kerman said. Kerman said that he feels it might be time for the county to reevaluate its threshold of 25 degrees. I mean, you think? Which is very, very cold. I'd be interested in hearing from our county health officials what they think about that threshold. It does, I think, to many people in the community seem like a very high bar, he said. We reached out to Multnomah County to ask about the threshold and the manner in which people were told to leave Saturday. Because of the observed holiday Monday, no one was available for interview. Isn't that just incredible? They're having a holiday, so they can't they're not even going to comment on the people that were left suffering that are in their charge. Because again, that's what government is.
That's convenient, isn't it?
The communications director for the county, Julie Sullivan Springhetti, did send us a statement Saturday when we first asked about it. That statement reads in part, emergency shelters only open when temperatures and conditions reach a certain threshold that Multnomah County and the City of Portland officials use in consultation with emergency management, the health department, county human services, the Joint Office of Homeless Services, and the National Weather Service to jointly decide shelter plans. Why? Because we have a homeless crisis in this community. Rents have gone up 40% in 5 years. We simply cannot keep up with the inflow as the numbers of people with unstable housing grows. And until there is more affordable housing, the emergency shelter is going to be just that, a short-term response to save lives under extreme conditions. It will not solve the homelessness crisis that is so upsetting to your viewers and all county employees as well. The county said that there were 211 workers who allowed for the shelters to open and operate close to the holidays, all made up of volunteers and county and city staff. I know there were a lot of people frustrated in the community that the shelters were closed early Saturday morning. That's certainly no reflection on the people who were volunteering, many of whom I'm sure would have kept volunteering had they been given that option. So, I mean, there's just a lot to unpack there because, we're constantly seeing this in government, which is our government officials collectively trying to kill people and harm people. And that has to stop. So when me and my husband keep getting up here week after week and talking about our personal experience, that is our personal experience, but it is also the experience of many, many other people out there who do not have the wherewithal to get up and speak on speak about it. So,
folks, what we have going on here is a serious problem. Our society is run by people, okay? And it's of people, but it is not for people. Our society is by people, of people, for money. It should be by people, of people, for people.
Yeah, there should be no reason that you're ever throwing somebody out to die. And that is what happened. Who knows really how many people perished, due to the inclement weather across the United States. I mean, I think right now they're saying the death toll is something like 50. I'm sure it's way more. I'm absolutely positive that when the homeless population gets caught up in weather like this, people freeze to death and stuff like that, and they're never heard from again, or they're thrown into an unmarked grave. We saw in Buffalo, New York, apparently there was a video online. I didn't see it, but apparently a man froze to death, and there were just people standing around laughing.
That's how desensitized that we are now to the suffering of people.
And that's I want to point out, death. Yes, that's a consequence really of years and years and years of just pretty much saying, I mean, even I've grown up in this country, and more, you're trained really from a pretty young age to just walk past people. And there's reasons for
suffering.
Yeah, there's reasons for that. I mean, sure, we can't all individually stop and help. It's complicated, but it's not complicated when you think about all the institutions we have here that we've set up to help people that are no longer helping people. I mean, what you constantly have is people skimming off the top, things, money being spent on things that we just don't need, like these wars and stuff like that. This is all very, very, very unnecessary.
Yeah, it seems way too convenient to be able to spend over $100 billion on war, but not be able to take care of the people that actually live in your country.
It's a blank check. It's a blank check for war, which is disturbing. Sad that certain people can't deal with this. I mean, this is year 3 for us. I just want everybody to know we're not going away.
And folks, we're here for a reason. We're not here for no reason. We're not here to bother you, okay? We are here because we experienced something very, very, very serious here in this community, and it has not been dealt with in any appropriate manner.
It was a full breakdown of the system, and I think
we're just here to remind you that is still going on here in your community. It's not like it's been fixed.
And it affects everything. So when you have leadership that doesn't care about people, from our daughter all the way to the people that were thrown out onto the street, to all the way to all the people that are suffering globally, as really there is this effort. I think in leadership today, what we see is a big effort to make sure that the elites who already have way more than they can ever use, that they have more. And there's this constant, never-ending worship in the media, which I think, has done a really good job of brainwashing people who, are constantly watching the TV, that we're supposed to almost like worship these rich people. I'm constantly seeing people like Bill Gates and
Elon Musk,
Klaus Schwab, whatever, these people who say, oh, they care about life and they care about the planet and they want to help everybody, yet they live. It's the way they live. I have to say, we feel that, I feel, my entire family feels we had an incredibly blessed Christmas. And we don't have a mansion or anything like that, but we had heat and we had lights and we had a few gifts under the tree, and that was more than enough for us. And I think that people need to start really shifting the way they think about leadership, because if your leader is, living in a castle or in a mansion or has several mansions and they're consuming far beyond their needs, way far beyond their needs. It's not even like, oh, are they comfortable and warm? They have so much more than they can ever use. That's not a leader. So I don't really see any leaders on this planet right now, except for people who are being reasonable with their usage and stuff like that. I could not, in good faith, be running a country and be living in the lap of luxury like I see the royals doing, like I see all these wealthy stars and stuff doing. I couldn't be, or these CEOs, I couldn't be living that way while so many people suffered. I thought it was really disingenuous. I just read that article about how here in Multnomah County, with the feds and the county, they were all, they all came together to decide to throw people out into the ice and the snow on Christmas Eve. It was interesting because I was watching on MSNBC yesterday. My mom had the news going, and, these news anchors were talking about these migrants that got bused to Kamala Harris's house. And they were saying that, oh, Governor Abbott, he's such a terrible person. He left these people in the snow and the cold. And, Democrats don't do that. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, well, I live in a blue state run by Democrats, and sure they do. They'll throw you out in the cold to die just as soon as, both sides are doing this, is my point. It's policy. And so we have a long way to go in terms of fixing things here. So, things are going to be okay for our little ones. And it's our job to get that done.
Yeah, folks,
all of us adults, it's our job to get that done.
Every person's responsibility here on this planet to be caring for all of the life here. And that's one thing that we are not focused on as a race of beings. We are not focused on caring for life. Somehow, the way that we've set up global human culture, it's not focused on taking care of us, which we're the ones who are running it, so I'm not exactly sure how that happened.
Well, we're kind of half in and half out, right? We've got some stuff done, and then on the other side of things, we're almost like doing nothing. So you have people just completely suffering, and then people living like way far beyond their needs.
And
so
it's very interesting too that a lot of people that are pushing this climate change agenda are really the people who are living in all of this excess. So from their vantage point, yes, there are too many people on the planet because not everybody can live like they do.
And yes, they're running out of resources because, if you are one person and you need, 80,000 square foot mansions and, 500 cars, well, yeah, that's going to be something, we can't do that for billions of people.
For billions of people. But for the majority of people who are living just normal, regular lives, that is something that is very sustainable here on this planet, and even for more people. So, and we keep on listening. Now, we have the media. The media really should be something that's helping inform our decisions around how we organize society, but that has changed. Our media, just like our protest is being suppressed, our media is basically the voice for these people who want to basically have everything to themselves.
Yes.
That's what our media has become. It's a voice for elite victimhood. It's a voice to basically shine a light on the life and keep us focused on these people, you know, and making us believe that they are the most important. They're more important than anybody else on the planet.
And that's the funny thing about the people that they're having us focus on is they don't need anything. You know, they really don't need anything. They don't even need your sympathy. I mean, it's outrageous to me that is going to be that has somehow become our focus, when in fact, you know, we need to be turning our attention to the people who are suffering.
Because that's who really needs our attention, isn't it?
Well, one thing I wanted to add into, before I forget to say it, because we speak off the cuff and we never plan these things, and I just don't want to forget to say this, is when I think back to when the government attacked our family and our entire struggle over this 16-year span, I think it's really important for people who are feeling very lost and maybe suicidal right now, really broken. I have to say, I really was in that space for a long time after my daughter was abused and we were fighting the government. And to come full circle now this year and to be doing this over the last 3 years and to have received what I feel like are so many blessings, especially over this holiday. I mean, I was just so grateful. I got up every day and just said, thank you, Jesus, for the heat and the lights, because so many didn't have that. And that's something I wish everybody could have had globally. And I think that that's very, very doable, but we have to start focusing on taking care of people. And the big job right now, everybody, if you're paying attention, is changing the narrative in the media, because the media really has a hold on people's minds. And pretty much they're just telling you that, you know, that suffering, that we have to be suffering, that, you know, people have to be suffering, and there's kind of no way to fix it, so they keep trying to gloss over it. I watched King Charles's speech, and it's interesting to me, you know, the royals have been in power for I don't know how long, 1,000 years, longer, whatever. And they really just kind of put a face on things. They kind of act like everything's fine, when in fact, even over in the UK, lots of people are suffering. They had to open up the warming shelters. People are freezing, they're starving. And I really feel like one of the things that me and my husband feel like our job is to do right now is to shine a light on that suffering. So somebody's actually focused on it and talking about it, because in the media, they're just constantly moving on. Like what happened here Christmas Eve, throwing, you know, over 1,000 people out into the snow and ice. I want to keep hammering down on that. The jogger rapist that was released on December 16th with no regard for his victims or the safety of the community. I want to keep hammering down on that. What happened to our daughter? What happened to my husband at Nike? We're going to keep hammering down on that, because that's how we improve things. You don't ignore your problems. You
deal with them.
You deal with them. You deal with them.
You acknowledge that they happen, and you reflect. You start taking a serious look at how these things happened, how they were allowed to happen, and how we're organized as a society.
Because this is how we're going to improve things. And right now, all over the world, we do need to start reflecting on the monetary system, because it's harming people. We've just gotten to this space where, you know, people with tons and tons of money, they're just automatically worshipped. And, you know, I've been up here talking about this whole Harry and Meghan thing because it's just interesting to me, because these two have essentially done nothing, but they've just won award after award after award for doing nothing. They won an award for only having 2 children, because that's supposed to be, you know, an enlightened thing to do.
But lots of people have only had 2 kids, and they're not being...
But they're saying it's because, oh, well, the climate. Well, these 2 people have 2 children that are going to need more than probably 100,000 children, right? Because of their titles and their status. So have you really done the world a favor? I mean, we need to start really, really thinking about all of this. they won an award for fighting structural and systemic racism when they haven't lifted a finger and nothing happened to them. So that's a problem too. I mean, even the people they want us to look to for inspiration, it's just fluff. And there really is no inspiration there. I mean, I don't think there's anything inspiring about people whining from a mansion. It just grates on my nerves, especially when I think about what our family went through actually fighting structural and systemic racism. And I want to dial back on that too, because some other thoughts I was having the other night, because I've been listening to a lot of people talk about this whole Harry and Meghan thing, is in our case, I've definitely had a lot of people say, well, it wasn't racism. They don't want to say what it was. But unfortunately, in our case, it really was racism, because the people who harmed our daughter, they didn't, there's the people who burned her up, and then there's all the people that harmed her after. So the doctors that didn't render care, the judges, the attorneys who lied to our family, the fact that we still haven't,
covering it up,
yeah, the police,
the FBI,
all of it. That all happened. That was just blind hate.
Because we didn't know any of these people.
We didn't know any of these people, and even a lot of people, I think, with our story, they like to dial it also back into, oh, well, your husband sued Nike. Yeah, something like 18 months later. I mean, after they discriminated against him, it was all very legitimate. Nike still paid off the courts and got their way, because that's what we do. Here in human culture today, we continue to put people who don't deserve to be on pedestals, like way up on pedestals. So it's like if somebody has a pocket full of money, they're just automatically good. And then if somebody doesn't have a pocket full of money, they're automatically not good, and you're not going to support them. Which is something that we've been experiencing. A lot of people have been standing back from this rally. I'm not exactly sure why. Because what happened to us is very real. And all we're asking for is for the laws and the policies that are in effect in the city to actually work. We'd like to see them work. But none of that is happening, and I don't know. I think a big reason why that's not happening is because there really is kind of nobody in charge, which is why so many people are suffering. I think what we have in government today is just a lot of people kind of muddling through,
looking like they're doing something. It's just a face put on what's really going on, and what is really going on is we are all bowing down to this idea that people don't actually matter. And that's what's actually going on. That's what is really actually going on. And no, this works really well for the people in power, because while we are steady allowing ourselves and forcing everybody else to get rid of themselves and each other, they get to keep everything for themselves, right? The people in power, because you don't see these people, the people in power, suffering. Not really.
No,
and they're not thinking about getting rid of themselves or each other.
Well, it's even like here in Multnomah County, when nobody could even comment on the fact that, over 1,000 people were thrown out into the ice and snow on Christmas Eve. Why? They were all at home. They were warm. They were comfortable. And so they couldn't even pick up the phone and comment to the news station as to why they didn't do their job. So we really have a huge failure of government.
Well, the problem is that they actually did their job. So,
well, that is, their job is hurting people.
Yeah, their job is to hurt people.
That needs to be acknowledged by every individual citizen, and then by the people who are also doing it.
Because these people, like my wife said, federal, local, all these agencies got together to make this decision to hurt a lot of people.
All at once, and to frustrate them. Who's to say, if you decide to throw somebody out in 30-degree weather, if they're just not going to snap and go gun down a bunch of people or whatever. So that's another thing about our society, is all these, mass shootings and gun violence and just domestic violence, all of it. It's being driven by the way,
created by the way that we are disregarding people on this planet.
And you can cause people a lot of angst when you do disregard them. I mean, when I think about our entire struggle, and all the times, we just felt completely ignored, and all of that, it was very, very devastating. And now that we're getting to this point in our life where we can kind of look back and have some perspective, and things are looking up, I think things are looking up a lot because we do rally. And I know for some people here in the village it's upsetting and everything, but this rally is actually a good thing because this is a turning point for our country, really. And because we are starting to have this conversation. The media might be ignoring what's going on here, but me and my husband are super committed, so we'll see. Maybe 5 years down the road, they'll decide to cover this. They know that me and my husband are not just interested in justice for our daughter. They know that we are interested in justice, period. And what's going on in the world right now, this is not working at all. I wanted to say, too, before I forget to say it, you know, I keep hearing a lot of talk about what's going on the border. What's happening on our border is horrendous. I'm tired of the Democrats who are in power right now. They keep saying, oh, it's the Republicans, they're mean, they don't like migrants, da-da-da. No, it's more like people are unprepared for the influx of people because we already have all these people we're not caring for. And I really do believe, and I'm just going to put it out there, and I'm not going to run for office again because I'm not going to win, and neither is my husband. We already know that. Everything's bought and paid for. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of international companies, including American companies, operating south of the border, and they pay slave wages. So people are flooding over the border because they want a better life. And the fact of the matter is we could change that just by going to these companies and saying, hey, you know, you already saved a ton of money moving your manufacturing down south of the border. Why don't you pay, you know, a decent wage so people can stay put?
A decent wage for where they are.
Exactly.
That's not even that much money.
It's not even that much. It's really not that much. If you want to move south of the border, you can live on way less. I mean, we may even see if something like that happened, if they just raised the wages in the maquiladoras right down there on the border, you could see a lot more people staying put because, you know, a middle-class life is a lot easier to achieve in a place where things are less expensive. So, you know, again, you know, we are creating these problems, and the fact of the matter is all of our border towns, they just don't have the resources to even deal with their own people. So they're just being overflooded, and we see that here in our own city. You know, again, because so much money is misappropriated, nothing can be fixed. And I don't think there's a real desire to fix it because I see even here with our situation, again, we've got no acknowledgement, no compensation, no media coverage. It's like we don't exist. And what that all stems from is our leadership feels about us like they feel about you. You are not worthy. So what happened to me and my husband, they just feel it doesn't really matter what happened to us or how hard we fought or what occurred. We're just not worthy of acknowledgement. Because again, you have to be essentially attached to multi-millions and billions of dollars to be worthy of practically anything anymore. So, and that's really sad, you know.
I mean, it's really important that we now, because as human beings, we are what is valuable. We are literally what is valuable, okay? Somehow, in global human culture, we have been convinced that it is something else, that something else, something other than us is what is valuable. So
we're throwing people away because of money. Millions every single year. So that is, again, it's a serious problem. And I see we're going to get rain. So.
And it's not something that has to be going on. You see, all we need is just a new agreement. What we need to do is focus back in on what's really important, and that is caring for global human culture. It's important for us to be caring about human beings.
And we also...
That should be the focus. That should actually be the driver of our economy, and we can get there. But not if we're not talking about it. And
we also need to reevaluate what government's for, because like I said, here we are, $100 billion into paying for this war. If you turn on the TV, they say it's for democracy. I can assure you it has nothing to do with democracy, because me and my husband, we've done nothing but, there's been nothing but tyranny. That's what we experienced here. Even though there's all these laws on the books, and all these institutions set up like the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. We have DHS supposedly to help, when kids are abused and this and that. Now, all of that just disintegrated when we tried to utilize all of those systems. So this whole idea that we're spending money to defend democracy and freedom, that's
kind
a
of
lie.
hard to do
So we need
when
to,
it doesn't exist.
We
folks.
need to acknowledge that. Do you want me to get an umbrella for that?
No, we're just going to finish up. Let's wrap it up.
So we're going to finish it up because we actually did not come prepared for rain. And like I said, we never know how these things are going to go. So this is going to be a short rally today, and we'll be downtown again on Friday. And we'll be talking more about all of these issues. But again, I just want people to think about, what are we doing here as human beings together? Are we trying to create a space where people can live good lives and be happy and healthy? Or are we just trying to get rid of one another because we're so angry at the very idea of existence? There's a lot to unpack every single day. So I'm going to let my husband end with the affirmation.
Folks, this is a very important affirmation. We say it at the end of every single rally because it's important for you to understand as a human being. So when it goes like this, I am the value.
I am the value.
You are the value.
You are the value.
We are the value.
We are the value. I am the value. You are the value. We are the value. I am the value. You are the value. We are the value. I am the value. You are the value. We are the value.
Folks, we're not talking about money. We're not talking about gold or silver. We're not talking about cryptocurrency. We're not talking about anything you can find on the stock market. We are talking about your very life. That is what is actually, literally valuable. That's what God meant to be here. And actually, if we were to acknowledge it, we are the hand of God that is supposed to create the heaven here on earth.
And we can get it done. We can at least try. I don't know if we can finish the project, but we can at least start trying.
But we have to acknowledge we have to start with acknowledging our value. Okay, so, and that's something that our society has been set up to detach us from for a very, very long time. And it's time that we take it back. It's time that we start understanding and realizing what is actually important here on this planet.
And that's something else I want to say is I often think about, what would have happened had we not fought, had we not fought for our daughter, had we not done what we did, and or had the rules been followed. Well, in both those scenarios, we wouldn't be standing before you today. And I feel very blessed to be standing here, even though it looks like no one's paying attention and nobody cares. Me and my husband feel very, very blessed. Every week when we get out here, we really do truly feel this is God's work. We feel grateful to God that our daughter survived this horrific assault.
And we are grateful to be doing this work.
Right, and we know that it's important for us to get out here and keep telling our story because we don't want to leave anybody behind. I don't want to leave anybody at the mercy of this corruption. The sense I get from our public officials is they feel like, well, yeah, that happened to you, but we're not going to do it again. But yeah, I see it happening every single day when I get up. I see people being ignored. I see their issues not being acknowledged. I see people suffering in the street. And it's not enough for me to just say I survived my trauma, or my husband, for us to say we survived our trauma and we're just going to go home and not think about anybody else. That is a huge problem on this planet. We all need to be thinking of other people. And that's a huge shift we need to make globally, and we shouldn't be thinking that we want to harm other people or other people shouldn't be here, because it's really not for anybody to say. I mean, when people tell me that the planet is overpopulated, I just look at them and I'm like, well, do you want to excuse yourself? Because that's
and
really...
what you'll find is that these people don't.
No.
But they'll say that there's too many people on the planet. So who is too many people?
I mean, and the fact of the matter is, I don't care how many people there are. I'd rather be trying to care for them and work together than just let people die so other people can be here living like Harry and Meghan. I find the excess abuse of, this excessive wealth, it really turns my stomach on a daily basis. And that's another reason why our family has never gotten justice, is the people who did this to us. You know, they're very wealthy, and our leaders worship their wealth. So they can't acknowledge anything else. I mean, and what's terrifying about the elites is you can't punish them, you can't hold them accountable. They own the media. They own a lot of people's just minds, because people are so connected to their phones and their TVs and all this, that, and the third, that people are no longer paying attention. So I have to say, for those of you who wish us off this corner, we will never be getting off the corner. We're going to be doing this. This is a public service. It's something that needs to be done. We look forward to it. We look forward to Wednesday. We look forward to Fridays. And we look forward to people reclaiming their value. So we'll say the affirmation one more time, and then we're going to pack it in so we don't ruin our equipment. And we'll see everybody Friday downtown. And again, I am the value.
I am the value.
You are the value.
You are the value.
We are the value.
We
Humanity
are the power.
is a team, and we need to start operating like one. And, you know, nobody's better than anybody else, okay? So we need to start working together, and when things fall apart, we need to acknowledge and address it. So, again, we will see everybody next week for week 79. We are going into year 3 of Justice for Qadira, which is just amazing to me. And we look forward to a lifetime of doing this, because it is time for this world to change. Thank you, Multnomah Village.
Thank you, Multnomah Village.
And we hope everybody will be warm. We hope everybody gets their power back. And we're praying for all the suffering people on the planet today. Thank you.
Thank you.